Counselor Tan?
How are you?
Yeah, I saw you come in, Counselor Clark.
Anybody?
Lene, would you bring me one, please?
We're just saying you're all by yourself over
Yeah.
You want to run them?
No, he just assumed, fly solo over there. Yeah. Mr. Condit, nice to see your name here. I saw your face a little earlier too.
Yes, I'm here. I discovered early on that if I have my camera on, then my face is the only thing you see on the big screen, and I look like Oz the Great. So I'm going to keep my camera off until you call on me.
Okay.
Nobody
And
needs
Jeff,
my face.
yeah. Jeff, on behalf of the council, I'd like to send our condolences to you. I know your father passed here recently, so please accept our condolences, and our just thoughts are with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. He was 105, so he had a long, full life and was pretty healthy right up until the end. So you can't.
That is fantastic, and lots of stories and lots of lives lived there in that 105 years, I'm sure.
Lots of stories for sure.
Yeah. All right.
I appreciate it very much.
Thanks. I'll call our Wood Village City Council meeting November 14th, 2023 to order. If we could have a counselor would like to read the land acknowledgement statement, I'd open that up. You bet.
The Chinookian peoples, known as the Clackamas and Cascades, are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechakokee, now referred to as Nechakli, was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these peoples included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gatherings areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systematic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We are honored to be guests upon these lands.
Thank you. If you'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
The republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Greg, any citizen comments?
None this evening,
All
Mayor.
right, I would like to now, I know Councillor Amend is going to make a citizen's comments here, and I'll turn it over to her.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to acknowledge the genocide and ethnic cleansing in Palestine, and regardless of where anyone stands on the issue for myself. I didn't like when I learned about like Nazis, like I never thought it would be confusing. Like if it happened again, it would be so clear and everyone would be so, this is not okay. And it turns out like that's not it. And it's so complicated and so heavy. And then reading a land acknowledgement about genocide and the systematic removal of people to a reservation, I feel like it would be remiss to my values if I didn't absolutely condemn the war crimes against Palestine. So as a citizen, I wanted to say that. And as a counselor, I want to say it's just heavy on my heart. Like, I can't imagine that in our community, and it could be in our community, you know? So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Public Safety Report, Lieutenant. Nice to have you with us again.
Thank you, Mayor.
We enjoy having you here every month and every meeting if you'd like to come.
Right. Good evening. Start with, we had 133 dispatch calls for service, which is down slightly from last month, but on par with the average trending for the year. 169 self-initiated, which is slightly above the average for the year, but slightly below last month's. Emergency calls for service were at 3 minutes, 57 seconds on average, which is slightly below average, and non-emergency at 7 minutes, 41 seconds, which is pretty close to on par for the annual average. There was a total of 4 hit and run accidents. I did look at the accidents and noticed that they were mostly conglomerate in the big box was kind of typically, unfortunately, what we see as a trend, parked vehicles that were damaged and no one stuck around essentially to say that they had hit the car. Several community contacts. I know that we had a deputy present for the Tree Hill condominiums monthly meeting. And there was a total of 4 cars reported stolen, which is slightly above average monthly of 2.9. Other than that, I reviewed the calls and didn't see anything that stood out to me specifically. If there's any questions, I'm happy to address those.
I had a question, Lieutenant, on the stolen vehicle report. It shows 4 on this page.
It's always very confusing to me as well because of the.
And on the other page, it showed 10 stolen vehicles on that first page. On the very first, it just has the calls for service type.
I thought you were going to say versus the other page that had 1, which is the recovered. But
Recovered, yeah.
It's written in a weird way. Let me see if I can find.
But that very first page, that looks like, yeah, you got it. You might got a date mixed up on that or something.
I didn't notice prior to this. I'm happy to research it. My initial thought is that that's how many calls for service with the title of stolen vehicle. And then sometimes when you get there, it wasn't in fact stolen. It was borrowed by a family member, or the person didn't meet the basic requirement to report a stolen vehicle, like as in it wasn't in their name. That is my assumption, but I'm happy to take the note, research it, and let you know at our next meeting.
Yeah, well, it probably is because that's the sheet as I see it, calls for service. Okay. Questions? Anybody else?
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one quick comment, if I may. I spent most of the day today at the county building doing sheriff's office interviews for a lieutenant position. And I just want to comment on the sheriff's thoughtfulness and thoroughness in doing vetting and, for a leadership position like that. Now, I was only in on the community panel. There were other panels for scenarios and actual law enforcement laws and whatnot. So I can't speak to the thoroughness of that, but I'm sure it matched the community panel and the dedication to community service and serving communities. So just passing that along and the appreciation and thoughtfulness of that process.
I appreciate you saying that. Also, thank you for your time. It's important to get obviously members of the community and cities involved. So we thank you as well.
Well, thank you and good luck with that hire.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Great, thanks for doing that. I know you've done that before.
And what's interesting, I've been on some other, call it county processes. Other ones have felt for other departments more like a check the box, or, you know, they can say they reached out. This, it really is, they're taking the input and it's part of that process. So, I mean, yes, it's just one part of it, but it's certainly taken seriously. Yeah, I think this is my fourth or fifth that I've been involved with.
Yeah.
It seems that at least out this way, it feels that the sheriff's office is really trying to engage its community partners and members in a meaningful and thoughtful way. So it's great to kind of hear that.
It, you know, and again, as we know it, if we're at the table, we can bring the topics that we want and try to have a little greater influence sometimes in some of those decisions. So thanks for doing that. The review of the bills paid. Any questions there? Hearing none, I'll go to the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, we'll, without having to remove the item from the consent agenda, because technically we would remove the item and put it on the agenda. But I think we can all cease with with that formality. But we do have the consent agenda, and we've all agreed that we'll put some of these items on there. But if you do have a question, and I first want to ask about the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. The city events, you can see the items on the consent. Is there any questions or comments on any of those items?
I just want to speak on the event, the annual Pumpkin Fest, and the tremendous job that staff did putting that together. I think being the first in-person event for that event back since 2019, it was a huge success. I mean, I think I participated as part of Play East, and within probably 2 hours, I was out of 300 bags that we had put together. So just the thoughtfulness behind everything, you know, I appreciate staff thinking of all those things. And it seemed that everybody was having fun. We had fun. So it was just a great event put together.
Thanks for that comment, and I certainly shake my head yes too and echo that. Any other comments on that? And you see the other items on the consent agenda?
I just want to thank all of you for showing up that day. And I know Councilor Tan and Clark, you worked pumpkin bowling. I mean, you both worked that.
These kids were not gentle with the pumpkins.
Yeah,
Roll and they were like,
smash.
it was a different
The
game.
full council participating in the activities and helping. And, you know, from a staff perspective, things change on the layout. But otherwise, yeah, it was good to have it back like that.
And I think the staff report covered certainly the items that I would have. So the staff report too, it certainly covered it all too, and the recommendations that the staff has come up with for some changes. So thank you.
Lastly, just again, big shout out to staff, but Caroline, just for
Oh, yes.
leading that whole
Oh,
thing.
Good.
She did a great job.
I think that, yeah, she's doing a great job.
All right, moving on. We got discussion and look,
What?
Need a motion for the rest.
excuse me. Yes, we do. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda. The city council meeting dates were there. You've had a chance to review those. And
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Go ahead.
I second.
We move to approve. I move to approve the consent.
Second,
I second.
first is moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, first item here, discussion, the DLR Park restroom design bid. John?
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors. I'm going to pull up a presentation here. Do I hit share screen first? Okay, good evening, Mayor, City Councilor. Sorry about that. Technical IT challenged here, so bear with me. So I believe in September, October, as part of one of my director's reports, I did provide an update on the park restroom project. We went out, thought was a design build, yielded zero bids. So talking with industry professionals said, hey, separate that design and that construction. So we did go out with RFP for design. We did receive two formal bids, estimates, and one informal from our on-call RH2 engineering contract that we have. You can see three, two are real close. One is below 30,000. Which is good, which is if you take the architecture part out of it, that's what we actually thought that's what it would be around, is kind of that $25,000 to $35,000 for the design. So and again, that is for 8 individual units. 2 of the 8 would be ADA accessible, as presented in the picture. And a reminder that contracts under 50,000 do not have to be approved by City Council. So again, just want to throw that out there. And we did check references for Coble Creative. They've done a lot of local work in the area. One, Migration Brewing. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. Did all the design work for both their facilities. So.
Okay.
Just a quick question, right? Why why the big difference?
Yeah, so
I mean, that's, I don't want to say alarming, but I mean,
That's pretty alarming.
yeah, that's a huge disparity. The other two pretty close, but
You want
So
to,
I'll touch on it and then John can follow up with whatever I left out. So when we, like John said, when you pull out the architectural side and look at, the engineering components, structural, utilities, all that stuff, they're all about the same. I mean, you're a few thousand apart when you're looking at components. The big difference was on the architectural side. So Coble, for example, I think put in about 40 some odd hours of their staff time to design the thing, versus LRS had, I think, 120 or 160. They didn't necessarily break down full hours, but they had their pricing kind of work backwards to it. LRS's pricing was also dramatically higher on their architectural side than Coble, because LRS is a team of 120 people. Coble, I think, is 4 or 5. So, I mean, you get different overheads, you're getting different things. And, for a building like this, in which we used LRS, you really want a lot of, voices and say, a restroom where we can almost, John showed, some exterior pictures, and now this, we could almost you could probably design that in 40 hours. And that seems to be the largest difference is, one had a lot fewer hours at a lower rate for architectural related components compared to LRS. But again, the engineering side of both of them were very similar.
And then I think we all saw that spread there. What am I going to say? Coble, they're local.
they are, yes.
And they've the brewery there. And how long have they been doing work? And they're doing mostly commercial, or?
Mainly commercial, yes.
Okay.
So
And they've been around for?
I don't,
I want to say it was 8 years. I mean, to say relatively new, but certainly not new.
Okay.
And the other thing, I mean, the restroom is like a 20 by 24 building. It's not.
There's not a lot of architectural work.
RH2 kind of mirrored LRS in those
Well.
again, but you're looking at 2 of the larger.
We're giving them the template.
Yeah.
Like Greg said, you look at the square footage, it's not like a city hall building, that's just under 10,000 square feet. We're talking a 24 by 20
Yeah.
structure. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did check references.
Okay.
And just a reminder, the budget breakdown for the entire project for the restroom replacement from URA, ARPA funding and parks funding, total adopted budget is $550,000.
Okay. Well, thanks for the work on that and finding a COBOL.
Global Creative, yes.
Yeah.
So it's staff's recommendation that we move forward with the design. At least let's get a design and then we'll reevaluate the
Sure.
the estimate that we have appropriations for the rest of the project.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Well,
this doesn't need
this
council
does
action
not take-
because it's
yeah.
less than 50. Back just the same to close the loop. And Cobble said they can pretty much get us a design early part of January, which will allow us to get it out to bid.
Good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And so just, I know this will probably be later on when we talk about the other side of it, but with this being such a kind of more where you guys were expecting, does that kind of put us back into the original budgeted amount for the project, or at least closer?
It certainly helps.
We're in that ballpark.
We're in that ballpark.
Yeah, but looking at construction costs and what those will come down to, what specific architectural elements,
Yeah.
details,
Yeah.
this certainly helps make it.
That buffer growth.
Yes.
We know the element that's out of the question, fabricated, that's just outside of our budget appropriation at this time.
Okay. Well, good work.
Thank you.
Next item up is again, discussion, no action here on the ODOT IGA for the right-of-way parcel, John.
Of course, now it works. Okay. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, for bearing with my deficiencies here. So this is a discussion, no council action needed. There is a parcel, ODOT owns a parcel of property on the east side of Northeast 238th, just south of Sandy Boulevard, between the Jack in the Box and the Arco AM/PM market there. And it's highlighted on the left screen. And then also you can see the aerial on the or the left of the screen. The right of the screen is the aerial. So we're looking at about just under a half an acre, so 0.42 acres total. So ODOT owns that property, and it was part of the ODOT interchange, I-84 interchange project. And since 2018, the city staff has had to deal with issues like parked cars, graffiti, litter. Not saying that ODOT is not responsive, but I think everyone knows what our response is. We're very timely. We want to nail graffiti now, not 2 weeks from now. We don't want to deal with no parking signs a month from now. We want to deal with it tomorrow. So there's some positives for us acquiring this property. So ODOT had offered to relinquish the property for free. Said, hey, you want it? Here you go. Staff went out and did an evaluation of the 0.42 acres. The condition, there's 2 additional storm drains. They're functioning. What was in poor condition was the asphalt. So staff came together and proposed to ODOT that, hey, do a grind and inlay, a thin 1.5 grind, grind out the bad asphalt, put in some fresh asphalt, and we'll consider, taking that property. So, because we feel that, acquiring that property would support us being able to manage that property a little better, the no parking, the signs, the litter, the graffiti, we could manage that, I think in a timely manner that would support our city goals and values. And really it's the surface maintenance, once an 1.5 inch overlay, gets placed by ODOT. I mean, that's going to be good for 35, 40 years down the road. So, again, what I'm trying to say is there's just minimal cost to maintain that 0.42 acres. Yes, Greg.
And if I could add one more thing of a benefit, because, city doesn't have to take this on. As John said, there's a lot of reasons to just more control. Part of that control is also if and when there's redevelopment at any one of those parcels, whether it's the AMPM, Jack in the Box, or there's also access to Yazzi's, we are then kind of the road authority for that segment instead of waiting for responses from ODOT or dealing with what they may require in that parcel for some sort of redevelopment. So there's just another benefit of the city kind of owning that on top of what John already said.
There's no other platted lots down there, right? There's no other vacant.
None of them.
It's all been developed out, but I
Yeah.
know Yazzi's is in pretty tough shape.
Well, on the map shows kind of like a green area.
Yeah. Is that, yeah, right?
Right,
That's
between, like-
stormwater for Camping World.
Okay.
So as you can see, it's minimal property. And like Greg said, any future development, or we would have more say so in that. And again, as far as the maintenance, I think there's minimal maintenance for the 0.42 acres. I just think it would better serve us to maintain that.
Anybody have any concerns about the city moving forward with that?
On the drains, where do they go? Do you know? Do they have they'd be responsible for that, right?
Yeah, they go into Sandy. So just like our storm drains go into county facilities, these would go into a county facility on Sandy Boulevard to the north.
Okay, so that would become a part of our,
The two storm drains would become part of our stormwater facilities to maintain.
okay. Yeah,
So it would be two additional catch basins to maintain.
and then we'd seal coat it if we needed to or whatever.
Eventually, and that was been the big hangup when they approached us back in 2018. It was sure, but give us an overlay to bring it up to some kind of
Sure,
standard. And
Just like
ODOT
any road, if somebody gave it to us, we'd want it to be brought up to city standards.
correct. And ODOT at the time said no. And then it was just, 6 months ago or so, 4 months?
Yeah.
Not that long ago, ODOT said, we're willing to overlay it. Will you still take it?
Yeah,
Sweet.
Okay. Well, good.
Clearly.
yeah, I'm all in favor of it.
There's litter. And so our code enforcement reaching out to ODOT saying, hey, clean up your property. I think they're realizing that there's just more to it than just a 0.42 acres sitting there. So.
Okay.
And like you guys mentioned, the ability to now, if those businesses aren't, meeting city code, by whatever on that, then we can enforce that as well.
Well, I mean, businesses, if they make city code or not, this doesn't impact that. But for future redevelopment, not saying we don't appreciate those that are there now, just it's one less barrier if
Yeah.
there are
Right.
opportunities.
Then we can put a knife or a spoon out there and put our own little restaurants out.
We've actually thought a wooden spork would fit us,
Oh,
Spork.
the ultimate utility utensil,
Yes.
Well,
1 inch taller than the fork.
I don't think we're hearing any concern, John.
So if
So move forward.
On the sport, yeah, but not.
Yeah.
it's the IGA agreement,
That's very
we'll bring it
It'll
back
come
to
back.
council
nice.
December.
Okay.
Sweet.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next item is John. John Square, he keeps on coming back to us.
He's got it down though. He's got the presentation.
The John Show.
Is it the
Parks
Parks
Commission,
Read the restroom.
Parks Commission recap.
You're doing so good.
John, we, we have we very high tolerance for technical management of any
Yes.
kind of equipment.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it.
There we go. All right. Again, for bearing with me on this. So I want to give a Parks Commission update. So met with Parks Commission in October. I think it was October 17th. Had a long meeting. Some of the items that we had discussed was the multi-purpose field restoration, the CDBG project that was completed, park signage, new signage and upcoming signage, the new disc golf course, the restroom replacement project, staffing, upcoming CDBG project, Parks Commission, non-council term update. And we had an open discussion also. One of the items discussed, and I went into the projects which you were familiar with, some of the signs, the multi-purpose field restoration, but we do have an upcoming CDBG submittal for 2024. A couple of the projects that were mentioned, and we'll bring it up again at the February council retreat. One of them was adding on to the current project that was finished, which was adding the picnic tables and barbecues and charcoal disposal. Migrating that out behind the splash pad. So just north of the splash pad in the grove of fir trees, there's areas, there's a couple old picnic tables that are probably 30, 40 years old, and just an area, grove area where could be family area to add some additional picnic tables and barbecues. And the other concept was taking elements of the Hawthorne Trailhead project that had a nature play area and adding a nature play area to the northeast corner of the park. So just north of the gazebo, between Halsey and the gazebo, there's a kind of an open area in there. So you can see here in the pictures, it's open. Again, we have the design and the conceptual concepts for a nature play area. Why not use elements of that? And just again, no action needed, just something to think about. Staff, myself, will be bringing this back to you in February at the council retreat. Typically the submittal is every March of each year. And so it's our turn, March 2024. So we'll see what project you come up with.
When you say this grant, is there a number there, the max?
So typically it's anywhere between 70 and 80,000. The last 4 to 5 years is what it's been. We won't know what that is until March. But typically the last 4 to 5 years, it's been between 70 and 80,000.
When you said it was our turn.
Yeah, so
what is that?
Every other year. So the even years, Wood Village submits a project, and the odd years, Fairview submits a project. Instead of battling each year to see who gets what and split the cost, maybe 35 and 35. We just a handshake agreement that every other year we submit projects.
Okay. So questions? Anybody?
One question on signage. I know most of the park signage had been updated. Are we thinking of updating the one on Hawthorne to match the rest of the park signage?
We are upgrading the sign, especially the ones Tree Hill coming in from Tree Hill in that area. So yeah, we're looking and evaluating all the signs.
And we still have another one pending for just kind of right up here as you turn into the park. You've got that green space, you can go left, right, or straight. We still have an option for that too, to help direct people.
Oh, I was going to ask.
So
lighting.
I have to touch on this. So number one from the Parks Commission, whatever we do, incorporate lighting. Lighting was number one from the Parks Commission. I think Mayor, you were there, Council President was there. I can't remember. And yes, Councillor Clark was there also. So that was number one. He said, no matter what project you choose, even the restroom project, try and incorporate upgraded lighting, additional lighting, whether it's added picnic tables, maybe you can upgrade, work with PGE to upgrade some of the lighting out there or add additional lighting. The CDBG grant possibility for the northeast corner, the nature play area, add lighting. Safety was number one from the Parks Commission.
I was actually going to ask right as you switch this, I went for a walk right before the meeting and it is so dark back there. Like this guy running had a light and still almost ran right into me. And I was like trying to, it's dark back there. So yeah, I'm really happy to hear that
We've even, clearly we talk internally, but just looking at the parking lot out here, and it was a thoughtfulness of adding the shielding to the lights to, for the neighbors and things. It seems to be too shielded, and there's probably a way to optimize the shielding. We're not getting glare into our neighbors, and we're also providing light where it's needed. Because I park under one, not intentionally, just that's where I like to park. You don't know there's a light there.
Mm.
And right now, the shielding is 360 degrees around the light. We're looking at, okay, maybe just shielding, on the west side, on the back side where the residents are. So
it is dark.
So we're trying to, look at ways not just to add new lighting. Certainly that's going to be a piece of it. How to optimize what we currently have as well, or piggyback on what we currently have to add lighting at a lesser cost.
So another recommendation was had to do with trees. So maybe become a tree city. Other options was maybe have a tree ordinance, maybe have a tree removal replacement program. Some items that we'll be bringing back to council to discuss during the council retreat. So you're hearing it now. It's not going to be the first time in February that you're hearing this and some of the projects, but it was brought up, some maybe an ordinance, some kind of tree ordinance, or look into becoming a tree city. And I know Councillor Clark probably has some history on this, but I know city council in the past had their opinions on that. But, again, moving forward, what that might look like.
What a tree ordinance. I'm not familiar with that.
Maybe they have to get a permit and we keep track of trees that are larger than 12-inch diameter, and they have to get a permit. And so they remove it. We require them to replace with 1 or 2 trees.
It can also go as far as, not saying we would do this or recommending it, but we've seen some where, again, trees over a certain diameter, if they're still healthy, not otherwise dead or danger, cannot be removed. And that was an early requirement of Tree City that when the city looked into it, this is before my time, so I'll call it this 20 years ago, resulted in a lot of clear cutting to avoid having that be an issue later down the line. Tree City has also opened up what kind of tree protections, ordinances, programs would qualify for that have changed over I'll just call it 20-year period that this has been an on again, off again discussion. But certainly, even in our planning and development code, there's a lot of gray that can be tightened up in terms of what's needed if someone is clearing a lot of trees for, purposeful reasons, what's adequate for replacement of those trees? And could there be, okay, you plant some street trees or other trees in that development, and you must plant some in another public area as well. Maybe, there's a lot of options now to flesh out more than there were before that hopefully gain at a person's right to kind of use their property as they please and to make some improvements, as well as, increase and protect a tree canopy.
So Mary, my wife, is the one who brought this up, as the mayor knows, and she is slightly furious about it. in the fact that, well, our street is just beautiful. And we get new neighbors that move in, and the first thing they do is they cut down all of the trees on their property. And they are perfectly beautiful, fine trees. They just don't want to rake up the leaves. I showed Greg all the leaves that I've got coming down off of my tree. My neighbor straight across from me, he moved into his house 16 years ago. And he raked up the leaves one year, and the next year he turned around and he just cut down every single tree. And before I knew it, and we'd become good friends. And I chewed him out for it. I said, why did you cut down the trees? He says, I'm not raking up all these stupid leaves. And I'm like, I appreciated the view that I got to admit that, but my gosh, I couldn't believe how he did that. And he never planted anything back, right? And I mean, I understand a couple of neighbors where their trees got so big that they were pushing right up against their house. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But the other guy on the other corner, he just whacked them all down. These beautiful Western red cedars that they don't make that big of a deal. And it takes a lot of wind to knock those things down. And where I have cut down trees because they were too close to my house, I planted 3 and 4 trees to take their places. So remember my wife saying that we had 20 trees? I told her afterwards, I said, you need to go back and recount because we have a lot more trees than 20. She says, well, I said, did you count these over here? And she says, no. She says, I don't consider those trees. I said, Mary, these things are 40 foot tall. These are trees. She considered only the Western red cedars that have, that are this big around. And I said, so no, we've got like, I don't know, 40 trees in our yard. Yeah. So this is why we're not happy at all with all of these trees being cut down. And we are Wood Village.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Well, John, we'll look forward to that at the retreat. The discussion, is there more? I didn't.
Nope, that's it.
But the tree discussion, I heard that too. So it'd be, when's Park Commission meet again?
We will probably meet just after the council retreat, but prior to the actual CDBG project.
Okay, but when you come to us, at the retreat, we're not going to take any action on anything, but you won't have a meeting by then.
No, typically it's every 6 months.
So we wouldn't see some action on this until after the Parks Commission meets again and makes some kind of recommendation, correct?
It could vary. I mean, depending on what comes out of the retreat and, looking at just the various projects, the tree component specifically, that's not something necessarily you need to wait for Parks Commission, but certainly let's just say, just discuss at the retreat, we bring some framework parameters and you're like, yeah, put something together. That's then something that could be presented to Parks to kind of vet, it's like, yeah, this seems to fit, it's a good balance, a good protection. Then, be brought back.
Well, if that can work, kind of the opposite of what it generally would do. And if they could hear clearly that consensus from the council.
Okay.
If that would help, that it's on the agenda, right? Anyway, so.
Yep.
All
okay.
right.
All right.
Okay. Any other comments?
Thank you.
You do have some beautiful trees up in your neighborhood there, Councilor Clark.
Thank you.
Main Street's on Halsey. Greg.
Now that I've helped John, let's see if I can actually do it myself.
More pressure on Greg.
Yeah, I know.
Right there. Yeah, just push on that button. All you gotta do.
I mean,
I'm looking out here.
But my grandkids.
Yeah, I have a lot of leaves in mine
What are you
too.
talking about? What button?
there we go. It was hidden from me. Not my
Go away.
fault.
Waiting for wind.
All right, thank you. A few meetings ago, I talked about kind of some things with Main Streets on Halsey, the current effort and how it wasn't quite optimal or certainly not in the spirit of how things had been. There are a number of you who weren't involved in Main Streets when it first came up about 8 years ago. So it'd be good to do a bit of history, what we've done, the good that's come of it, where we're at now, and some ideas moving forward. So Main Street started, really in earnest in 2016. It had some pre-work in 2015. The seed was planted. Councilor Clark, you're making a face. Was it?
I thought we started this a lot sooner than 2016 because I thought Mayor Fuller was involved.
That was the, what was that called? It was a Metro, like East County Connections Plan. That he was heavily involved in that. And this was kind of also maybe born out.
Yeah, because remember when that school that we thought they were temporary buildings?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was not a part of that plan and Fairview put that in and he was not very happy about that. And so-
Yeah.
But that wasn't a part of this, huh?
So, I mean, I'll call it the formal work on it.
Okay.
Really a lot of discussions over a longer period of time. Work in earnest started really in 2016.
Okay.
Clearly, again, yes, work, conversations, thoughts about what Halsey means to the communities well before then. And the idea, as Councilor Clark said, is we're looking at Halsey that connects all three cities in a very meaningful way. And different cities had different land use codes. You've got Edgefield. I mean, there's a lot going on there. So what can we do as three cities and the county to unify this, to have a cohesive plan that celebrates each community's uniqueness, but also unifies each community? One of the first projects that was completed was a full economic analysis. In the staff report, there was a link. So that was the link to the full economic report. Most of it still rings pretty much true today. I mean, some differences with, COVID's happened, income levels have changed around the communities, but generally the spirit of what's viable and some of the challenges are still true today. That was then used as a precursor to then do a full land use review and update. So looking at what are viable land uses, what are challenges, obstacles, barriers, and we'll talk about that next couple of slides, what we did for that work. And the current work is looking at the road template itself, how wide it is, lane configuration, active transportation amenities, crosswalks, all that sort. And again, the whole idea was to really build out Halsey in a unique and cohesive manner that brings economic development opportunities. So when we're talking about Halsey, depending who you talk to and when, it's generally between a 3-mile stretch or a 3.5-mile stretch. So generally to the west around 201st. I like to say all the way to the Sandy River. For some of the work, Troutdale has left its downtown core out because they have a downtown core master plan. It's still very much part of what makes Halsey special and can tie it together. So that's why I say, between 3 and 3.5 miles. Further work has actually divided this into 4 separate segments where you have, Fairview is a lot more residential. Wood Village is heavier on at least the commercial side and its future growth for commercial, as well as we have manufacturing and light industrial to the north side of Halsey, which is unique. This whole section is McMinn's Edgefield, both sides, north and south, and it's an unimproved street, and that's been a big challenge as well as opportunity for this effort. You then move into Troutdale for more residential as you go into its downtown core.
I'm going to be Mayor Smith right now and point out that Halsey is misspelled.
Hazy.
Hazy.
Where?
Right in the middle of Wood Village.
Hazy
And I
Street.
think it has to do with, see how the design, how Wood Village is broken up, and I think those are just a design.
Haisey.
You're right, though. There's strikes through
There's strikes through the Wood Village and there's a strike through the Halsey.
Like Edgefield too,
Yeah.
looks like that.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
I'm seeing it.
We figured it out.
I didn't.
Oh,
This was a map I copied.
It's just a design
Oh,
flaw.
Not my error this time. It's
You have
not
to
a
have these
dental
lines.
issue.
But good eye
It's the
anyway, Councilor
Gryffindor.
Clark. Good eye.
So did a planning effort in 2019 to really look at the zoning and development codes for each community, what could be tying together, unique and distinct, also the barriers or questions in those codes. For Wood Village, we actually added some new uses specifically around micro commercial development, micro commercial pods. So not thinking outside just food cart pods, but you could have essentially a commercial pod where you're not just selling food, but maybe pop-up stores and things of the sort. We increased heights, especially on the north side. The topography allows for some higher development. We saw that with the byway. That doesn't necessarily impact any views looking north. We also did things like height bonuses, where if they add certain amenities, features, or details, they can build even higher. We put in parking reductions that, again, if they build certain things and added certain amenities, they could reduce parking. The State Climate Friendlies Act actually wiped all that away, so that was for naught, but it was nice while we had it. And for us also, we built in more consistent but flexible design options. So it's almost now a menu where they get to pick and choose certain things, and different ones are worth different points, have to add up to a total. We also further clarified what mixed use is. For the byway, for example, we actually had to get a clarification from Planning Commission. Could horizontally integrated mixed use qualify? Because most people think mixed use, they think vertically integrated. So ground floor commercial, residential upper. This was, well, it's street front commercial with the rest residential. And so we've clarified that on both components, how much for commercials needed for vertical as well as horizontal mixed use. So really good work. It was really great. We were the first to adopt the code out of the other area cities, but they've since adopted their codes as well. So the idea was great. Got a TGM grant, that's Transportation Growth Management, through ODOT in 2020 to look at the street template. Work didn't begin until 2022. Various reasons for that. For Wood Village, this was a difficult project. Halsey is built out for Wood Village. There's sidewalks on both sides, bike lanes, street lighting, landscape strips. Is it optimal? Absolutely not. Could it be better built differently? Absolutely. And when you have built infrastructure, being competitive for grants or using dollars when there are other areas that don't have sidewalks at all, there are no lighting, that they're just a mess, this doesn't compete well. Now for Fairview, they had reasons to look at their street template. They really wanted some on-street parking in areas, but again, our template was designed for on-street parking, and you see that in various segments already. Edgefield was the biggest opportunity from my perspective of this effort, and really diving deep into what does Edgefield need and want, since they own both sides and they have a long-term vision. Part of that vision is much like a rural type of development, a rural feel, agricultural feel. So does a suburban street template make sense for that? Probably not. There also needs to be amenities for all users on the corridor. And not only is it lacking the sidewalks, it lacks a shoulder, it lacks lighting. You have bus stops that if you take a step backwards, you fall off a little cliff. You take a step forward, you're in the travel lane in the dark at 40 miles an hour. So a lot of opportunity there, which has been a beneficial part of this project. Also part of it are trying to unify the landscape requirements. What does that look like? As also like the street furniture and features, benches, trash cans. Yes.
Can we go back to Edgefield?
Please.
Have they changed their mind at all?
So this has been a frustrating part of the whole process. Edgefield will say, city, county, what do you want? City and county say, well, Edgefield, what do you want? And it's a circular conversation. And I'm not sure if it's unfortunate or if it will actually produce some fruit. The county is a road authority, so I want to caveat anything that we discuss as the three cities, the work groups, still has to be approved by Multnomah County to take effect. So county went to Troutdale, said, Troutdale, you don't need to be engaged anymore at this conversation. We'll take it with Edgefield. Not my community, so I didn't weigh in on that. It seems to be you'd want all the parties at the table discussing what that land use looks like, what's the long-term vision, and I'll call it what's equitable. You build on, I'll call it Sandy Boulevard Airport Way. You have topography challenges there, and they have to build retaining walls and build it out for a street section. Should Edgefield be treated differently just because it wants to be a little more rural, agricultural, and quirky? You have to look at ADA accessibility. You have to look at all the access points of, great, maybe they develop something on the north side at some point and you want to cross over in a safe, effective manner. I don't know what treatment is best for that. Is it a bridge? Is it a tunnel? Is it a crosswalk? I don't know. I don't think Edgefield knows, because I think I think they want to keep that fluid and develop it kind of more organically over time as they hear from their customer base, their guests, their internal processes. What we do know is something should be done sooner than later. They're bringing a lot of concert traffic that causes issues. Improvements on one side of the street would be an improvement. And that would be more of the south side because you have less topography challenges, but you still have some compared to the north side where it drops off also. So I don't know where Edgefield's at, to be honest, because the county's trying to pull it away.
Where's Troutdale?
Yeah.
Are they, it's in their city.
Is it just, are they getting along? Do we know?
I mean,
Troutdale in the county, Troutdale in Edgefield, who's getting along?
Troutdale as a council, are they getting? along?
Oh, I believe Troutdale's quite unified in their collective vision and staff work. I think they also have a nice working relationship with Edgefield. That's where I'll pause that conversation. And then where does.
Why is it that nobody wants to take the lead on this if it's circular?
Especially with the safety issues, like I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know either. And what I can say from my perspective, I don't want to speak for Troutdale.
Yes, I get that. You're walking on thin ice too, right?
Not really. I mean, I think it is a fair assessment. Collectively, over the years, they've taken further steps back on the Main Streets on Halsey effort than what originally was. And so when you go back to this map, originally they talked about their downtown. They were also working on their downtown master plan at the time, so it made sense to have some synergies. Once that was completed, they pulled out of talking about downtown in relation to Halsey. So what was left was Edgefield or a bit of residential that's already pretty well defined. And so from Troutdale's perspective, there's not a lot left to talk about. And also, I think it's a fair statement that when they look at Edgefield, they look at how it may redevelop over time. That's out of their hands.
Now, they still don't have a city hall though, do they?
No, they have a city hall.
Yeah, they have, but I think Troutdale's, because I've been a part of I've been a part of those meetings, and I think Troutdale is gonna let Edgefield do what Edgefield's gonna do because they're more concerned about their downtown and the
confluence area.
Confluence area that is now their, what I would say that's their focus. Again, they already did their piece on the residential side on Halsey, Edgefield, I think that's why they pulled out with the county as well. So let the county and Edgefield deal with it, and then we'll figure out as a city.
But they're downtown from dying, right?
Yeah. And again, they got their Confluence project and you don't have so much time to focus. It's not unlike, us with the Grand Ron and the former Greyhound Park site. They're going to develop that how they see fit when they see fit. Yes, there are ways we can play in that discussion, help move it along. We have other areas to focus on too while we're waiting for that. I think they take a similar approach to Edgefield, that Edgefield is going to do Edgefield things on Edgefield's time. Troutdale's also been very willing to sign off on a traffic impact plan for their concerts. And I think the county is looking at that differently now. So I think, the county is trying to play a larger role. And I think Troutdale's saying, fine, play that role.
Because again, Troutdale, they're not truly impacted because they have another point of entry.
Well, in my mind, they are impacted, right? Like people from their community, from all communities, use the bus stops. Their staff use the bus stops. Like that is a major concern. Every time I see someone walking, riding their bikes, it's really scary. So there's part of me that's like, I don't frankly give a shit what you want to do with the property around, but we need these things. Like, how can we say this is unacceptable for our citizens and for your people like walking to concerts, like we need more safety. It's just a matter of time.
And that has been, of all the disagreements we may have with our neighbors and priorities, even on the community level, like Edgefield is ranked very highly of just, you need something there. Maybe it's not even the final thing. There needs to be something more than there is today. And that's honestly kind of been the driving factor of remaining on this current TGM effort, because again, other than playing defense for Wood Village and preventing things that don't make sense, and we've heard from our communities don't make sense for Wood Village. Again, could it be better? Could, if we could go back 20 years ago and rebuild the sidewalks differently, it would be, the kind of the 8-foot multimodal pathway, landscape buffer, travel lanes. Absolutely. That's a great treatment.
Greg, I think, and we can beat on Edgefield.
Sorry, I brought up.
The important thing is, I think for us as a city and staff, you guys meet with the county's transportation once a month. And you get.
Technically, yes, it's a meeting.
It's a meeting, yeah, and they show, they.
Do you show up or they don't show up?
They do.
Oh,
They don't always know real, well, I'll let these guys talk about it, but from what they've shared, it isn't always real consistent, but is that fair?
It's technically a meeting, and
Yeah.
some are more fruitful than others.
But wherever we can, my point here is wherever we can, let's try to speak to this issue that we all are generally, frustrated with right now.
Bring it up to Muktuk too.
Yes.
Yeah, and so wherever we have that opportunity, and Councillor Clark, that's exactly the place to begin to express that. So, and then just what you're saying, we all understand this to be a safety issue for our community. So go ahead.
no, can I just ask a clarifying
Sure.
question? So regardless of what they want to do around that, there is a way to say we want to update the sidewalks, or do they own the road as well? Like,
Edgefield or the
have it-
county. So county is the road authority for all of Halsey. So we could say we want, and it says, no, you're getting Y.
We
Yeah,
could
right,
ask for
right.
pink streets and we would only
yeah,
get
well, we want
yellow.
sidewalks.
So, I mean, I guess going off your clarifying question, if maybe this could happen at the retreat, but again, we could write a letter to the county, kind of saying, hey, what's going on? Or individually just start putting that pressure on them, because again, it's really gonna come down to voices being heard
And this is getting down to kind of my point of bringing this up. There's a lot of, I'll call it, the last couple of years, wasted time. We need to focus on some other stuff, including, great, we got direction. We need to press for treatments on Edgefield's area. And so I'll finish up this slide and kind of work towards like next steps, what that looks like. But heard loud and clear, Edgefield's priority, not a surprise. So there was an effort in 2022 to kind of brand and promote Halsey. Not surprising, that fell apart. There was some really good community outreach and engagement, and including some Wood Village community groups and members it was very enlightening and thoughtful, and kind of confirmed where we as Wood Village want to take Halsey. And that's where it died. Different work groups, different cities couldn't agree on taglines, logos. So
meaningless things.
it died. But for us, it did confirm kind of what we thought we knew, what we wanted out of Halsey. And lastly, we do have what's called the HC3. That's the Halsey Corridor Collaborative Committee. Formed in 2017 to be this constant driving effort behind keeping things moving forward. It hasn't met since April. I'm not sure that there's a meeting scheduled, because part of the TGM work was very purposefully leaving them out. Why ODOT and others had their reasons. I thought it's odd to have a committee focused on Halsey not involved in this. But I see HC3 being less involved, maybe, twice a year meetings just to keep things updated, or if there's grant opportunities, or again, letter campaigns to advocate for improvements. That's where this, group can have some strength. So what is next? Certainly wrap up the TGM process. It's expected to be kind of wrapped up, I'll call it February time, which then it would go back to each city to consider adopting into their transportation systems plans, as well as in the county's transportation system plan. And that's where the magic can really happen. If the county approves it, including whatever may come out of Edgefield, then you can advocate for the construction and build out of that through a Muktuk and other, grant opportunities to start. Half street improvement on the south side would be great. The full thing would be even better, but let's start with something. Again, HC3, don't know about the future, but it's worth discussing that with HC3 and maybe being, again, that advocating arm for some grant opportunities. And for Wood Village, certainly will advocate for our Halsey vision and looking at some of the opportunity properties and where we can make some improvements. And where some improvements have been, certainly the 3 crosswalks, that was born out of some of this effort and made for a strong application. We have one more to put on Halsey towards the west end, but they're really odd right-of-way restrictions. So it's just going to take a little more time to bake that in. End of this week, we were having 5 solar compacting garbage cans shipped out to us. So 3 of those are going on Halsey at high-use transit stops adjacent to some high-use commercial areas. So hopefully reducing litter, providing amenities to transit users. We wrapped them really cool, really promotes Wood Village, as well as our motto on the back side of them. Also then on the sides has change out message panels, so we can print, different messaging and change that out kind of as needed. Maybe some of them talk about TriMet and downloading their app and so you can see when the next bus is coming, for example. Also maybe city events, projects, initiatives. So really cool design. When I was in New York last month, those things are everywhere and they get used and it's great. So I'm looking forward to having some of our own. As you know, we're refreshing the gateway signs and islands. And so as we enter Halsey, what does that look and feel? And then the development along Halsey. And certainly I'll add to my notes, let's advocate for improvements on Edgefield. Yes. Could there be improvements to our sidewalks and done differently? The focus should be let's complete the system first and then look at how to make things more optimal. So that was my kind of update presentation. Aside from, focusing on Edgefield, what other questions, comments, or concerns do you all have?
I've noticed a lot of people are trying to get used to the new traffic. They're changing lanes and doing all kinds of fancy things down there.
Oh, yes.
Getting onto the freeway or trying to get to Walmart or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm you got to take a little. You got to kind of watch back a little bit to keep from wondering what these people are going to do. You can't follow anything. And yeah, you just got to be a lot more careful right now until people get used to this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was it makes sense on some perspective of turning left onto the interstate instead of one left, one straight with different timing. And I agree, it probably would help to have some additional traffic control change ahead, like they usually do when they make significant changes. This was one day, lane changed.
Yeah. I was like, what?
I have and on the last comments or the last things you were sharing about like the compacted trash cans and the signage, in the efforts of, camaraderie with our neighbors, is that something you're sharing with like our neighboring cities to say? Because I know, prior at HC3, there's, a lot of pushback or whining. I'll say it. There's a lot of whining that we were moving ahead with the crosswalk. So, I think,
so
just be nice and courteous.
So I'm going to get to a couple of points. I'll start with the crosswalks because there's been a lot of whining about how we got ours. That was part of a very early county transportation system plan, active transportation plan, to put in crosswalks on Halsey. At the time, they were more of the bubble where it shows a general location. And again, it was 4 of them on Halsey in Wood Village. We then used urban renewal just to do it. We knew, the county wasn't going to. A lot of priorities for the county and a lot of the grant programs don't necessarily fit this perfectly. So we did it. Other cities built giant cutlery with urban renewal dollars. I mean, nothing stopped them from building crosswalks.
Right.
Just like harsh, it is harsh. It's also been said at those HC3 meetings, like nothing stopped you from looking at what your current transportation plans are and building what's in them. In relation to garbage cans, that was a conversation 2 years ago. And we held off because of that branding effort. Thought, great, if we're going to do this, we can wrap them with whatever branding and taglines and have that unified look. We got tired of waiting. Just to be honest, I got tired of waiting. This is a need. People said they've wanted it. I'm tired of waiting for others to figure out what they want to do. If in the future there's some sort of brand or thing, great, we'll look at what it takes to add that. But we need to keep moving forward to serve our community in the ways that we know that's desirable and needed.
And also kind of like looking at other regional partners like TriMet, maybe reaching out to them and saying, hey, we have this. Is this something you could consider on other stops on Halsey or the ones we have? How could we partner together for some co-messaging or something?
Yeah, and I think that's the key. I mean, TriMet, and hopefully over time it will change about how we can enhance stops that is more of a shared responsibility instead of if you touch it, you own it regardless. I love the idea about the messaging, and that's why we have those, again, removable panels. So great, maybe TriMet's doing a new initiative, or again, letting people know they actually have the app that will show where your bus is. Like, that's so cool. And I think a lot of people don't know that may be more of a casual transit user. And so I think there's a lot of cross promotional between certainly TriMet and the city with that effort.
So they don't have an app, they just have a mobile website.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I always thought it was an app. They should get an app.
Wait, try.
When
has an app?
They have
Not anymore?
they've never had an app, like a TriMet app. They have a mobile website that looks like an app. Yeah. Yeah.
Greg, when is that? You've got 3 cans coming. When is that?
We've got 5 total,
I know,
but
but
3
when-
for Halsey.
3 for Halsey,
Yes.
but all 5 will be delivered at the same time?
Yes.
No, okay.
Yep. Yeah, and so then the other 2, I'll call it a little less defined. We certainly think like Arata Road / Wood Village Boulevard's an opportunity. We also have garbage cans at the cross area between 230th and 231st Court. So we're thinking maybe add, instead of 2 garbage cans there, add it's a big belly, add a big belly there, take those 2, put them further back in our park to allow for more garbage in parts of our park. And then the other one maybe close to Wood Village Baptist Church, for example. It is a high use area, but also keep some eyes on it.
Sure.
What these cans do also, we bought the I call it the mobile package, whatever, the data package. It tells us when it's getting full. And so, we like 230th, 240th Court, we have to drive out there and see how busy it is. This says, hey, I'm 80%.
And when we put these out, and I know they weigh whatever you guys have told me, a ton or something. But anyway, in any event,
300
I'm not in.
pounds.
Yeah, maybe a little lighter than a ton. But when you put them down, do you have to, how do you secure it? Anchored. All right. So my point is that when we put down 5, we may not get them all in the right place at the right time. We may want to move some. So that my question was about the mobility of it when we lay them out there.
Yeah, so for Halsey, 2 of the 3 locations, we need to pour some concrete to be able to anchor them. But certainly, if something just doesn't feel right, not right, great.
Yeah.
You unbolt it,
So you
you find
unanchor it.
or another pad.
Get a forklift and move it.
I think you actually can kind of take it apart in different components.
Okay.
Put it together, because that's the other thing. Say someone damages a side panel, takes a car through it, for example. We've seen that happen. And maybe 2 panels are damaged. You can buy 2 panels and get those replaced. Or someone does a number on the solar part of it. Again, they can withstand some sledgehammering, but let's just say someone's really angry at the garbage
Well, it'll be
can.
interesting to see. these.
You can replace individual components.
Fun to have them.
Yeah.
We've noticed on some of the transit stops on the adjacent areas of, cigarette butts and things. So we've actually ordered those ones with a cigarette dispenser built in. Not that we're encouraging people to smoke, just if they do, they can
Cigarette
dispose of it. Disposal.
I was like, hold on.
We're gonna be there selling cigarettes now. You know where you can find Lene.
Oh my God.
Wood Village is inclusive.
Goes towards our tax, which will help pay for those cans.
And not that we're encouraging smoking,
Yeah.
don't go in the storm drain or litter and whatnot.
Okay, let me make sure that the other counselors have a chance to hear
I
that.
just have one more question with the garbage. And we had said that we can insert, advertising or not advertising, but my question is, can we throw it out there that we could have the possibility of local businesses putting advertising in there?
It's
How does that work? And
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, we have a advertising policy for our newsletter. I think for something like this, we'd want to you want to get careful. If we open up advertising, anyone could advertise anything they want that may not fit the city's values. And because of, First Amendment rights, so you just have to look at what that policy may be. Again, just so we're promoting things that promote the city's values, whatever those might be. Or if you're just okay, like, no, like for $500 or, whatever price, they can put whatever they want for a month. I think TriMet, had some issues with that on advertising on the
Yeah.
buses, that they really dialed that back in.
Right.
But again, like,
Yeah.
leaning on them and saying, okay, from your
History.
experience,
Yeah.
what kind of policies did they come? And then, that could be a council.
So that's
I mean,
something,
I was thinking
Yeah.
about advertising, profiteering off of maybe these to the extent that would be
Yeah.
reasonable
Yeah.
and help our local businesses, not somebody in, downtown, but to help our
Right.
local businesses promote their business. So
I'm confident there's a way to structure something, and I can always talk to Jeff about that, as well as TriMet, because they've had some growing pains with that.
okay, any other questions on what Greg has presented here on the main streets on Halsey redirection? Now we got to wrap up the.
Yeah, I think I'm good on the redirection. So again, less meetings, less studies, more advocacy for Edgefield, and just more of building out Wood Village Halsey.
Yeah, and in your staff report, you're not recommending pulling out of HC3.
Not yet.
They're still, their baby uses.
There's still purpose.
Yeah.
But I think, again, taking direction, saying, here's what we've heard from Wood Village, and here's what we need to be working on.
Okay.
Also,
Thank
sorry,
you.
I did a swear, everybody.
What's that?
Earlier, I did a swear. Sorry. My bad.
I'll bring up.
Might
Get that on
be like-
record.
You got to put at least a $5 bill in the jar.
Yeah.
It went inflation.
Used to be a quarter. Go ahead, Greg. Next item is the annual. city
Really
council.
quick on this one, you were all there. It was just a few weeks ago, our joint meeting at the Grand Ron. Just want to recap for those that may not have watched the video yet, or don't want to watch it. So just so those in TV land know, it is on our YouTube channel for the main part of the meeting. And the Grand Ron let us know that essentially their gaming applications on a long-term hiatus. So they're no longer actively pursuing any kind of casino at this site, but rather non-gaming options. We talked, mixed use, family entertainment, maybe short-term, again, maybe some kind of micro commercial opportunities. It certainly seemed from their discussion that the future of that site is pending future discussions. There hasn't really been any active discussion other than they're pausing the gaming piece for a few reasons. One, the governor having that statement about one casino per tribe. I guess there are, issues with the Siletz tribe and the Kaiser casino. So, they're deeper into what's going on in the casino world than I certainly am. So whatever's going on was enough to say, we're pausing this effort. Let's look at other options for this site. Spend a good deal of time again talking more about Grand Ron history, certainly from the council, their tribal council members, and it was nice having some younger people on their councils kind of about when they were a kid, which was more recent history from some of the older ones, but certainly that richness of that experience of either growing up on a reservation or hearing about the pains of growing up on a reservation. So certainly enriched our knowledge and experience with tribal history in Oregon. And then we did the tree planting in the Arboretum for Catherine Harrison. And again, just for those, we've referred to this site, by we, mostly me, as a former Greyhound Park site. It hasn't been a active Greyhound Park site in almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years next October.
Dang.
And it was demoed in 2017. So people that have moved into the community, certainly anytime after 2004 may have realized what it was, but certainly if they moved in 2018 since, this means nothing to them. Say former Greyhound Park site, that means nothing. So for those, it's the site just north of the town center, 26.6 acres. Used to be 30, but we purchased this part up here for that wetlands park. So this is when we talk about the former Greyhound Park site, it's this entire area. So that was a presentation on that. Questions, things I left out. Again, real high level, just to recap the conversations, but the biggest piece was they're not moving forward with gaming at this time.
Questions? Reflections? Okay, thanks, Greg, for that recap. And We have, we're down to the discussion on the
retreat.
council retreat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Greg cubed. Next year, I'll pick a new joke for that. I just retreat. So we do have, a new council member and still, relatively newer council member. So you had your first retreat last year. But to talk about what we do for a council retreat, it's an annual event we've done since 2011. And it's a time that we gather, say outside a council meeting. It's still very much a public meeting. But structured very differently in that we're talking about, budget projections, big projects, master plan updates, also activities that, we get to know each other a little more or a little differently, comfort level team building. We've also done some in the past that kind of look at, decision-making matrices and different components. So the big point is, we discuss priorities, things coming up in the years ahead, celebrate, successes from the past year, and what do we want to do moving forward. So, we hope to get clarity on this evening is the location. That's probably the easiest one to settle. The date, facilitation, and then the general agenda. So way back in the day, we used to hold it at Edgefield. We since moved it to, our own city hall. Even at the temporary place, we made it work, but held it here, and it was a great. So assuming we're going to hold it here for the retreat, I put live stream in question mark because of the way we set up the room and move around the space. It really is hard to have audio to an effective live stream. So we just let people know it is a public meeting. You can observe, what we do on that day. So just want to clarify for really logistical reasons, not a live stream. I've seen some head nods. So again, we certainly advertise it, promote it. It is a public meeting. For the general agenda, this is what staff has kind of come up with, and also a time for then you all to say, hey, what about this or what about that? So one thing we've added the last several years is, again, we kind of recap accomplishments from the past years, as well as maybe challenges and opportunities from the past year or years ahead. And that's really kind of pre-work. The facilitator does a lot of pre-work, and we just kind of talk about that to start. That's kind of kick off the retreat. We always touch on, the mission, motto, values, and goals. That's where we added this last retreat to our motto of CARES, which used to be community action, respect, enthusiasm, and services, and changing enthusiasm to engagement to fit with, our intentionality behind that. So even though we haven't made major tweaks in a few years, it's always good to just consciously look at those and make sure they're fitting our direction. I put team building. Some of those are just kind of icebreakers or fun little exercises. 5-year financial projection, where are we headed? Where are things looking like? Certainly future of fire service and where we're at in those discussions. What does, districting look like? Financing options look like? Having some time to really dive into those details. Homeless services, and this one is really about if we do the retreat in February, that's, deep into county budget time. What services have we received? Where are the gaps? And what do we need to advocate for? And how can we partner with, the HOPE team in our neighboring cities and having a stronger voice of essentially demanding real services? We also as staff want to have a conversation about maybe being the road authority and taking things back from the county, much like Gresham did. And what would that look like? And so again, it's starting that conversation, both in terms of, a transportation maintenance standpoint, as well as, a planning standpoint, because we've seen some things recently, including the food cart project down the street. To add one food cart, the county is demanding a full transportation impact analysis. Seems a little odd. So we'll have that discussion, some of the challenges, opportunities, and difficulties of what that could look like. We also thought, we're talking about some heavy hitting items. So what does that engagement effort look like for those items? And how should we intentionally reach out and engage our community in what they think of fire service? Where are the gaps in the services? Master plan updates, a big piece of that. I didn't bullet point all the focus areas, but in the staff report really kind of highlighted for master plans, looking at our SCADA project that will be completed by then. And what does that look like? And what's that done for us? Where are we at with the sewer line project, and certainly parks, and, where we're at with those various park projects, components, like Tree City, for example. and then using all that to develop our annual performance plan. So that was from a staff's perspective. And I want to pause here to, get feedback on that. What could be missing? How do we add things, or do we, shift things and do workshops versus what's a retreat topic? So pause right here.
So council, take a look at these. And if you have an idea of something that's missing, the first thing I would say is there's a lot of stuff, a lot of items on here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, one of the most frustrating things about the retreats is by the afternoon, everybody's tired. So and we may have to do all of these at the retreat, but that's the caution I have right now, looking at this list of how thoroughly can we really discuss and get to in depth. So I'm just raising that point right now.
And I also don't want to discourage if there are, topics from the council.
Absolutely.
Let's find a way to then, again, maybe.
Yeah,
do a
my
special
point
session,
in
special
raising that
meeting.
isn't to say there might not be something else that should go here. But then I think we need to look seriously at taking some items off. So anyway, that's my my comments there.
My thought is I have to take that off for that. I'm not so sure we need the team building, other than that's fun. We might put that at the end if we wanted to keep that on there. I remember in 2011 when we did this, that team building was the absolute first thing we had to do for various reasons, but we seem to all get along really well.
Well, we did some heavy team building last year.
Did you?
Yeah, and it was heavy.
You were there as well.
Yeah. No. Anyway, we need,
Team building?
I was, yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you were there.
it was,
He wasn't part of the team. He was the eye.
we got to do some more team building.
Wow.
And I don't think it's because we don't get along.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was there.
Thing of that level, but
Yeah.
Oh, you had to remind me.
Okay. But anyway,
Yes, I was.
again,
Were you there?
No.
Councilor Tanz knew that's what might help
Yes.
to add
Okay.
some.
Yeah.
right.
I needed lots of
Yeah.
help, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
about getting along sometimes. and functioning together.
Yeah,
Let's look at
okay.
this and
Maybe
see
I'll
how we
take that
can,
back. Maybe
narrow
that's why I
this
wanted to
down
get rid of
or
it.
add other items that might be
So
important.
mine isn't like an item, but
It's-
maybe like a concept and something I think we did, not last year, but maybe a few years back, was like regional partnerships. And maybe we look at regional partnerships, because some of that, like, looking at some of this kind of entwines with
3 of them.
outreach,
Yeah.
but also really entwined with regional partnerships and, looking at, okay, are we talking to our neighbors of some of these things? And if not, do we collectively as a council start saying, hey, let's start, can one of us make a connection with, Troutdale or or this and that, and really looking at mobilizing for some of these things, because just hearing some of these discussions externally, one of the cities has to be like the driving force and the point people. And I'm under the impression is defaultly going to be us. And so if we start looking at maybe doing an intentional plan and say, hey, let's focus here, let's focus there, let's tag team everything all together, is going to be huge and impactful. Again, not only for our residents, but for the whole area as a whole, but mainly for Wood Village. So, I mean, again, it's more of a concept, not so much of an item, but of a concept.
And I think that, certainly, fire, homeless, transportation, it seems baked in that as we're getting clarity on these, communicating that to our neighbors and how to strengthen that direction should be part of those discussions.
Love what you said about that. The structural part of it, I think it would also help to be like, oh, I am in contact with this person. This is, the issue that I talk with them about. Like, for me as a new counselor, I think that would really love that idea.
Because again, we all bring different strengths.
Yeah.
And so I think like, let's use those.
Yeah, I work for the county, central HR.
That's it. I mean, you work
Have
for
some insight on
you're on
something?
MUCTA. A lot of opportunities once given direction, how to leverage the strengths.
Yeah.
Within that, Councilor Rio Campos' comments here. Buried in that is what we're seeing and experiencing as we're trying to work with our neighbors. I'm seeing it in a lot with just trying to get mayors talking together and trying to look at the regional in concert. It's not, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but this concept, we are pushing a lot of things. And Wood Village is representing in the three cities in a lot of different ways by our voices. And if we can, as I think Hyrule has laid it out, to have some conversation about that. And we may not come up with a whole plan, but at least think about it and how we can be representative of our city, but we all share the same people. The kids, families, and speak for a voice that is larger than Wood Village, so that we can perhaps influence some of these voids and in areas where there isn't people speaking directly to it. So that's my observation. So does that sound like it could resonate for a conversation at the retreat? So let's look at something on there. Because, by the end of the day, we're going to walk away if we talk about all these items and wonder about how deep did we get?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's and your mind just again after lunch, you know how that's like 6th and 7th period in high school.
Well, I thought it was nice.
Way in the morning. Please.
I figured take a nap.
It's one of the things that as Greg, as the staff starts to refine this, is to really, I don't know, I just put some time limits on it. Our consultant really needs to be tight and think about how she is going to get through this. But if I were going to try to staff this as a consultant, I would say there isn't any way you can get all this stuff done.
Well, and that was part of it before we really put, pen to paper of how much time each thing needs or deserves. Also, what did we miss? And that's also want to keep, what else did we miss? Certainly, wrapping in that outreach to our partner agencies and how to leverage that is one.
Let me ask you a question. How about Transportation and Road Authority? Can we do that in a
Do that at any time.
in a staff?
And that's what I was gonna,
Well, Mayor, we're not supposed to go to this retreat and have this thing as a project and then have it completed. These are only items that we put on the agenda for the next following fiscal year budget. This is not that's what we're supposed to be setting it up.
I mean, some of them you're diving deep
I
into
understand
some.
that.
Oh, okay.
But no, I understand that. But just putting these on here and beginning to have a conversation at the retreat, that's a lot of stuff. So
I mean, in terms of let's just say we pull a couple of things out of here. And when at the retreat, we talk about the APP, that doesn't preclude from adding those things, whether we've had in-depth or started conversations on those topics or not, knowing we are going to have those conversations, or it's interesting enough to further pursue it, whether it's at the retreat at some level or not. For example, like I said, the Transportation and Road Authority, we're driving that one. Nothing external really is, whether we bring it to a council meeting and talk about it for 45 minutes or just let's add that to the APP and really dive into it, through that process.
Over the next or 3 years
Yeah.
too, something
Or,
like
I mean,
or look at a work session, you know, whatever we don't.
Oh, yeah.
You know, accomplish that night, or like, you know, if all of a sudden we have like 15 list item,
Yeah.
you know, maybe we rank top 5 and then everything else could be looked at as a work session, you know, because again, I mean, I agree. The last couple of retreats I've been to, I mean, they're stacked, and the financial, I mean, obviously our number one job as council members is the finance. And so,
Yes.
you know, so we need to allow for enough for that. But a lot of these items are still pertinent.
Do we buy red pens or blue pens or black
Exactly,
pens, right?
Exactly. And so, you know, the transportation as you're mentioning, Greg, but that could be set out for like a work.
Sense. I mean, we've even brought some homelessness stuff here at a council level. You know, great. Once we kind of know where the county's budget product item, what do you want to advocate for? How do we want to partner with our area cities to advocate for those items? It doesn't need to be a retreat item. It is a high priority elevated item.
Yeah.
But again, this came from staff as here's where we see some need for discussion, whether it's retreat or not. We also didn't know where your priorities at and what did we miss?
If we're, and again, I'm looking at the 5-year financial projections, and fire service are critical. Both those things are money. Both those things are going to have impacts on our citizens, because we will at some point have to ask our citizens for some money. Now, that's not next year, and it's not the year after that, but these items are going to cost us. And we need to begin thinking about them and get down and,
How much do you want, Mayor?
well, let's see.
That,
I
I need $100.
I got 5 from Counselor Lene for swearing.
Okay.
So we'll start.
You're about to get another 5.
Really?
No.
Let's not do that again, all right?
Let's take 10.
All right, so let's see if we can get some feedback to the staff here, but I do think that the financial pieces are important. 5-year, fire service, et cetera. So others. Got other thoughts or?
Are we
As
going
you
to the
look-
same person? I forget her name.
So that's my next slide. It was Martha Pellegrino.
Martha.
That was the staff recommendation. She did a nice job with some, I'll call it casual, albeit forgettable, team building components.
Too cash? What's that?
Not impact.
Because again, you know, we do have a new counselor. That could be nice, just some icebreaker, just,
Yeah.
you know, get some things going. But she did did nice on pre-work for the retreat and then kept discussions moving forward. If you don't want Martha, we would recommend doing an RFP, doing a recruitment, bringing you back some options. But certainly if Martha is available, that seems to be a viable option for this year. And then maybe next year, go out for a different facilitator.
And Martha still works with the tribe, right?
I believe
Or-
so.
Yeah, yeah. So,
I haven't heard that she's
love-
not involved in the facilitation world.
yeah, yeah. I liked Martha very much.
Let's see, with one of the things Martha did, and you know, she's skilled, but to get a hold of each council member early, you know, as she's planning the agenda and find out, you know, perspectives and thoughts, and if there's going to be you know, an icebreaker or something. Give some thoughts, you know, give people thoughts, some time to think about
Mhm.
what it is that we may be talking about.
Right.
Makes it a little richer. And people are a little more prepared.
And if we, you know, in looking at this big list, I mean, if you kept, you know, the first, you know, recap accomplishments and challenge opportunities, you know, do the little piece on the mission model, vision and goals, a team thing, the 5-year fire service, wrap that around some engagement opportunities, whether, you know, community and our partners, and then develop the APP, that's a full retreat. Then that just means we as staff then, as we look at future agendas, build in, we need to talk about, you know, homeless components. We need to talk about, again, where we've seen issues in the transportation side, and whatever else you say is a priority. So those items alone could fill a retreat. And how does that sound to you all?
I think it'll be good to also just kind of well, in a sense, because I do like how Martha reached out and then from there, you know, the agenda got refined from, you know, conversations they had. Because for me, another kind of topic on there is just because I've been big on it is parks. And so, you know, I understand that our parks, the park commission is doing, you know, their advocacy and things like that. But that's something I want to ensure that, you know, it's a priority for me, parks and things like that and homelessness. But I think, yeah, so, you know, I think waiting upon kind of what she gathers from the rest, you know,
Seeing what comes of the individual
in the interview
conversations.
process, you know, I think could then really define that, because I don't want to just say, okay, these 5, and then it's like, well, we have a little extra time. What do we fill it in? You know, that's looking at it optimistically. But again, you know, I guess I just want to provide some opportunity that sometimes during that personal interview, things as we're thinking of it from here, percolate and things like that. So.
Yeah. So the dates, typically we do it in February. I was kind of looking at Saturdays in February, 10th, 17th, or 24th. Preferences, non-negotiables.
Or the
The 10th.
24th is the best for me.
Yeah, the 10th or
The
24th.
10th is about the only date I can do. Unless I fly back. And so.
It's the Lunar New Year, so yeah, it's good.
I guess
10th.
the moon's on.
10th it is.
All right, that was easy.
Well, counselors that have children, you know, we can certainly make some childcare options available here. Conference room, maybe even hire a certified person just to make sure they don't have any chaos.
Does that have Xbox hookup,
Probably could.
HDMI cord?
Yeah.
I think it'll be just fine if I need that, but I
What
don't
time is it gonna start in the morning?
6:30.
We're going for a group jog.
What? I think
I'm okay with that.
I know you are. That's terrible.
typically we do like a soft 8 a.m. kind of start to gather around 8:30, break for lunch around that noon time. Then it's like that 4 to 4:30 kind of wrap up.
Dancing starts at what time?
Dancing's after, that's retreat after dark. So that's at 6.
That's like early afternoon.
So again, if anyone needs any kind of special accommodation, childcare, you could just let us know in advance of that and we'll make arrangements.
You do plan on ending at 4:30 though?
That'd be the plan.
That's what we did last time. so.
Yeah.
I would like to make a recommendation that Greg get the snacks. I'll
Yes.
put that on the record.
Yeah, it's going to have to be on record. Otherwise I'm not allowed to.
Oh,
What'd you say? I didn't hear.
I second that motion.
That Greg
Who got snacks
get the
last time?
snacks.
Oh,
Who messed up?
No.
Oh, no,
it's-
Greg did great. No.
It's okay. I buy snacks as you would a small child.
Oh,
Oh,
Chips, Rice Krispie treats, juice
All I'm
boxes.
saying is
Yeah.
that when I get home,
you're a
I'm the
hero.
favorite.
Yeah. All right, Greg, you
snack.
be a hero.
I'll
Other-
do snacks. I'll have someone else do lunch. How's that? Actually, why don't you look at Tanny's to do
Well,
lunch?
let's try to use Tanny's if you know, if he's up and running, I should.
They're scheduled for their finals tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
again, we'll hold it here on the 10th. I'll refine up the topics, reach out to Martha for availability.
Everybody good with that?
I'm great with that.
Anybody feel like you didn't have a chance to talk?
If for whatever reason Martha isn't available, then you would kind of relay that to us and then an RFP would go out.
I mean, or we could reach out to the other group that responded last year. They were more, I think, focused on some DEI components, but certainly they rated very, very highly in that. So if you're okay with like as the backup without doing an RFP, we could do that. And if they're also not available, then we'd reach out for facilitation.
Good, yeah. Okay.
I want to stop talking.
Thanks.
Public Works, John.
I did. Yeah, that's all
Oh,
right.
boy. The gremlins.
Okay. So, Mayor, councilors, in your packet, you had a Public Works Director's, report. Really, nothing out of the ordinary, doing some work on the 238 medians. Chance to drive by and take a look at the wonderful turf that, was installed by staff, and we're going to continue, sprucing things up there. As far as, building and permitting, as Greg said, Tanny's will have a soft opening hopefully next week. They're having their finals tomorrow. So building and fire finals tomorrow. As far as Chipotle, they're moving along. I believe they did some landscaping. All the asphalt concrete work was completed. They're doing some landscaping. I know the last week I was and they're blowing bark dust in it. So I know they're dealing with timeframes. They're trying to get open. Really, it's ready for winter operations, dealing with storm drains and leaves. And matter of fact, today they were looking at the sander and plow. And so just getting ready for winter operations. Permits, I discussed a little bit of building is moving along. The last couple of weeks have been odd. Service line replacements have been the big ticket item. So residential service lines, probably three in the original village, and then 2 along 238th. I don't know why. It must be that time of year. But again, permitting, buildings moving along. Code compliance, we've had 327 cases so far this year through the month of October.
Oh.
And our water system, we have our system loss down to just over 10%. Production, we're right around just over 13 million gallons. So that's typical for this year. As we get in the winter months, our production consumption drop compared to the summer months. With that, that concludes the Public Works Director's report. Any questions or comments?
I have a question, John. How do we, the leaves, the county, are they going to do any leaf collection along Arata Road or Wood Village Boulevard or wherever? Do we do that in the city? Do we pick up leaves or try to keep the drains unplugged?
We pick up leaves on
our
our residential streets.
Right.
If they see a storm drain that is plugged on Wood Village Boulevard, Halsey, Sandy,
Yeah.
238th, Arata, Gleason, they'll stop and clean it. But we don't typically go through an entire road segment.
And doesn't the county do that occasionally?
They do.
I mean, I thought I saw them coming through last year.
They
once
do.
or twice.
And they're street sweeper too.
Okay,
They typically have it scheduled once a month.
okay.
So
And do they tell us about their schedule?
no, but we can tell them certainly when there's an abundance of leaves.
Okay, all right. There's my point.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, here.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you and have a nice Thanksgiving.
Seth, I saw you emerge from the back room.
Did you come hear me harshing on finance?
I did.
Service?
She wanted the whole meeting to be on finance.
It's not you, it's the numbers.
And those shapes.
Sorry. Not. Being a finance director during audit times, a little like being a rock star. You get to start late, come in through a special back door and then leave. Greg was gracious enough to let me do some work on the audit while listening. And so included in your packet tonight, Mayor and Council, is your finance director's report for the period ended October 31st, 2023. The only thing I'll point out is that there was a change to one of the graphs.
We put this on here. So this is your investment summary report. It shows how much of our cash is invested in the local government investment pool run by the Oregon State Treasury and how much is in Riverview Bank and what that level's been back to 2014. It also shows the interest rate that we earn on the LGIP as well as the interest revenue below that. What's new is the graph off to the right, which shows which fund owns what that part of our cash balance. So we have roughly $8.3 million, and you can see most of that belongs to the general fund with some in the Urban Renewal Agency, as well as water and sewer and street balances. The other parts of that balance are the sinking fund. We put away money for the capital, as well as some restricted funds for system development charges for parks and water and sewer. So that's the only change. Wanted to point it out, make sure nobody had any heartburn about including more information on this.
No, I appreciate the graph on the right, showing the ending fund balances.
And with that, I take any questions about this or any other part of your report?
No questions? Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And with that, I will go back to my seat.
All right, that is last items on the agenda. Any comments? Do we have a attorney's report? Jeff? Anything?
No, Mr. Mayor. I don't.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I was so looking forward to hearing about home rule.
Home rule.
I'm still offering to do that. I just, you never tell me ahead of the meeting, right?
Yeah. Any comments from counselors? Any announcements?
We talk about the upcoming weekly meeting. Is that next?
It is on there, yes.
I think I can make all of them, maybe not the toy drive though.
So just on the
What is
toy
it?
dive really
Yeah.
quick. So it's two parts. So Saturday after next is the actual call it collection event, which we're calling, it's East Cruiser,
This one,
the upper one.
yeah.
That one is the collection event. So it's taking place at Walmart, Fred Meyer and Kohl's. So if you're able to just stop by during any of those stores during those hours, say, hey, I'm Counselor for One Village. Thanks for donating, or donate yourself, toys to the thing. That's great. The distribution then is on the December 9th. The Wood Village Baptist Church is handling that. I'm sure, if you'd like to volunteer, we can make those connections. It's certainly not,
Yeah.
Same with, the actual collection event itself. It's just the idea was we'd get counselors from each community to just kind of support the idea of collecting toys for those in need in our communities. So that's it on the toy drive. And then for the turkey drive, again, that's at the East County Food Bank, which is at Smith Memorial Church there on 223rd. If you are available, want to help, that's when we're just giving out to those who signed up for the turkey box, handing them their meals. So again, all those are optional. I mean, honestly, the tree lighting is optional, but I hope you can make it December 2nd, 5 to 6 p.m. And then the next meeting's on the 12th.
And then that's at the big tree in frent of Fred Meyer's.
Here.
Oh, here, right. Yeah, I knew that.
Just
Trick question, yeah, I know.
You sit next to me. so-
Change things on you. Any other comments or announcements? Yes.
Mayor, I had the opportunity this past week to tour the new under construction facility out at the airport. And it was phenomenal. I did take a lot of pictures, and maybe at our next council meeting, if I could make a small presentation of the pictures in a movie that I took to show everybody how beautiful that facility is.
And what facility is that?
It's the airport, the $2.3 billion
Oh, the PDX.
PDX, yeah,
You know,
the airport.
It's does the at Mucktuck, does the Port of Portland, is he still on in Mucktuck and giving reports?
Well, It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the Citizen Noise Advisory Committee. that I
Okay,
serve.
no, I recognize that, but he used to come with reports on the airport construction
Yeah.
and show us pictures. So if you got some pictures of
I
those
do.
timbers
Yes, I
and,
do.
and the massive amount of, the architectural work on that airport is fabulous.
Yes.
Why don't we take, let's see what the next agenda would look like. And we could have,
Next agenda is
Actually, really, because
very tight,
it is, that's right. We got Metro Counselor. So
but if, yeah, or also if you could send us, maybe we can put it together like in a slideshow and send it out to everybody.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah. One of them is a movie, though.
Well, you can.
It's not real long, but it's a movie.
Could
Gives you a
probably
real-
route it through our cloud.
Yeah, but I wanted to explain what I learned about it. But
Maybe
however,
January then.
January is really good, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
all right.
I just want to quickly mention, I don't know if you guys saw that, so Metro is holding a mixer here with our neighbors in Fairview. It's scheduled for December 7th, Thursday, December 7th from 3:30 to 5:30. And as you know, just mentioned our regional partners, for those that are able to attend, I think that could be a great.
Did that just come out?
I think it did come out. It came out yesterday.
It just came out and I will send it tomorrow in case it didn't get to all of you.
Sorry, December 7th.
December 7th,
3:30.
3:30 to 5:30.
At the fork,
Yeah.
the giant cutlery.
And when you say mixer, like you give
well, that's what it's-
a heads up what it might look like. It's what.
Picture a 1970s sock hop.
Mixer.
I'm like.
It's basically in.
Terrifying.
So there'll be Metro staff from different parts of Metro, plus other area, representatives, whether it's staff or appointed. And it really is just informal conversations to, hey, I've had this question about blank. And so you can have those conversations with, Metro staff or Metro elected or other area representatives.
Thank you.
It really is like I said, just a mixer. So no formal presentation, but just a lot of representatives there to keep conversations flowing.
And so it's hosted by Mayor, the Fairview Mayor Keith Kudina, and then obviously our Metro representative council member, he'll be there, Ashton Simpson. And it'll be right before his presentation at our council. So.
And this is the first one really on the east side. The last three have been very west side focused, like King City, Tualatin, Beaverton.
Milwaukee.
And so trying to get over there.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
And they can come over to East County.
Are you dressing pretty cash for that event?
It's suit tie.
You could wear a ball gown.
Get your prom dress out.
Sweat ties.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, we need to wrap this up, unless there's other announcements before we get too carried away here.
Coloring contest is open.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. If there's nothing else, our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.